All right, Friday. Here we go from the Ford Tough Studio. It's the Boomer and Geo program. 877-337-6666. We've got so much to get to today, Al. So much to get to. We've got the Mets and JD Martinez. We've got a stupid rule in baseball that reared its ugly head yesterday, a new one. We'll get to that. We've got Shohei Ohtani, kind of an update, kind of not. We will get to that. We've got more on the football. We always have more of football. And we've got the NCAA tournament where Boomer had a couple right, couple not so right, and we had a couple of big upsets. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jerry. It's a feel-good Friday, and the New York Rangers took down the Boston Bruins in Boston last night.
I have that, too, today.
I know you do.
I do.
I just want you to know that I'm in a very good mood this morning.
1 point out of overall first place in the conference.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the first place, so I just want them to just continue to play like they're playing, and they're playing without two of their best defenders, and the two guys that are replacing those guys are playing really, really well, and it's a nice thing to see. You make a trade, the guy's got to play. This guy, Rue Weedle, he's got to play, and then Zach Jones has got to play. All great. So I feel good this morning, especially after them coming off of that loss against the Winnipeg Jets. And I guess the Winnipeg Jets and the New York Jets get-together didn't help the Winnipeg Jets.
I guess not.
Obviously, your Devils beat them last night. So saying all of that, I guess I wanted to start with, number one, the Mets signing JD Martinez, finally. It's something that was needed. It was something that was desperately needed. And if he can do what he has done the last 2 years, he's going to be exactly what the New York Mets need. And that means he can go against right-handers, left-handers. He can stay right in the same spot right behind Pete Alonso. And hopefully Pete Alonso benefits from this move.
All right, so we'll start with the Mets then. So they come to terms, a couple of things here. Number one, the signing is brilliant because the Mets I think they're going to have the highest payroll again, even with what the Dodgers have done. I think they're going to have the highest payroll in baseball again. So he agrees to, and this is why it took so long, he agrees to this one-year deal. For this year, it's only like $4.5 million. The rest of the money is deferred. And you slot him into a lineup that on paper should be really good. If these guys just hit to their baseball card, as we like to say, you now have added the punch on top of what you have with Alonso and what you have in terms of a contact hitter and Jeff McNeil, who hits for average, a former hitting champion. You've got Nimmo, who does what he does, Francisco Lindor. This team offensively now, all of a sudden, it goes to show while they've stayed the course in a lot of different ways, and it's about 25 and 26, this team is now, in my opinion, ready to go make a run at a postseason berth. I'm not saying win the division. The division's phenomenal with the Phillies and the Braves, but there's no reason why this team goes past that. We talked about it yesterday, the 80.5 over-under, and this is now a team that should be a playoff type of team. I know you're going to give me pitching. I'm going to give you Kodai Senga. Got good news yesterday. He's going to start throwing again real soon. You do have low-risk, high-reward guys in that rotation. This team now, all of a sudden, with this addition, which is what Met fans wanted, to me, takes a turn for the better.
I was very happy when I saw this, and you know what it does, Jerry? It lengthens the lineup.
Sure does, yeah.
Yes, it does, and that's a very important thing, especially, when you talk about batting orders and you're talking about protection in the batting orders. He's a big protector, and he's also a producer. Mm-hmm. He produces a lot of runs. He hits home runs, he drives in runs, he hits for average. I think that, I can't believe it took this long. I guess, he was trying to extract some other money or different types of contracts from somewhere else, but finally, unfortunately for him, gave in. But again, I think he also has a point to prove, which is to show that he belongs and that, he'll be a guy that should at least help the Mets win, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 extra games.
You would certainly think so. And now all of a sudden, if you look at the middle of that order, and there's so many ifs here, but there are ifs, as we've talked about all week long, with everybody. If Daniel Jones stays healthy, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get injured, if Tyron Smith can not have the back flare up, if. There's ifs everywhere. So now if we bring it to if Aaron Judge can play 150 games and not 100 games, if Garrett Cole's arm isn't awful, there's all these ifs, and it's across all of sports. So if now you've got a Met team that stays relatively healthy, you've got Alonso, who's been a 40 home run guy every year of his career, basically, and in some cases 50. You've got a guy in JD Martinez who I know is 35 or 36, but comes off a season where he hit 35 home runs last year for the Dodgers. You've got Starling Marte, who last year was not healthy.
Yeah, no, he's got to.
By all accounts,
season,
By all accounts, is 100% healthy. This lineup should score a lot of runs. And, oh, by the way, if you score a lot of runs and you take leads into the late innings, you've got the best closer in baseball.
So I was reading Al's show sheet this morning, and, I very rarely look at it, but I just felt like I wanted to look at it today for some reason. And in bold letters, all caps, on the top of the show sheet, it says, literally, nothing happened.
Which is not true.
Not true. Now, and if you feel that way, Al, and you feel like nothing has happened, I have a chore for you to do today during the show, if you'd like.
What's that?
Clean your goddamn office out. It is a mess. You look like a hoarder in there, and I'm telling you, we're going to get squatters here. This is what's going to happen.
I do not want squatters.
You don't want squatters. So let's clean that up a little bit because it looks like nobody's in there. Nobody cares. You know what that says about you when I walk in there?
Nobody cares.
That it works so hard he doesn't even have time to clean this up.
No, it doesn't tell me that. No, doesn't tell me that.
What is
try
it
again?
Then? Yeah. It doesn't seem very organized.
Well, there's a lot of disorganization, yes. I would say lazy.
Are you talking about my little area? Because there's other areas. There's unincorporated
but
areas.
who is running that area in there?
There's unincorporated areas.
Yeah, but who's
in that.
running those unincorporated areas?
He's lazy.
I mean, is this supposed to be a part of your professional, like your office where you do your work?
He's lazy.
Where you send me, there's literally nothing happening.
Yeah. You know what it is? Like, I do so much work in the studio now, I barely use that.
Well, like, what work are you doing in the studio?
That show sheet that had barely anything on it, like I did that.
And yet
You
there
do
was
that in the studio?
And yet there was actually plenty on the show sheet. After you,
it felt thin.
If you send an email that says there's literally nothing going on, I would expect there to be nothing underneath it. Hi guys, here's the show sheet. Nothing. Good luck.
And I appreciate that you do that, but sometimes I forget to check it, like 95% of the time.
Right. So today you looked, though.
For some reason, I looked. I thought I got an email or something. Then I saw Al Dukes' email there. And I thought, well, let me open this. Let me see what's happening.
Literally nothing.
Literally nothing.
Literally. By the way,
meanwhile, the Rangers had a great win last night. The Knicks played, and unfortunately, they lost to Denver. I watched the highlights this morning. It wasn't a bad game. It wasn't like they had one of those flat games where Denver came out and just steamrolled them.
Played well. They had an opportunity to win, played well, kept it within 10 for much of the night, but Denver was just better, which we didn't expect them to win that game last night.
I didn't, but what we also didn't expect is for them to be as good as they had been. They have won 4 out of their last 5. Now these next 4 games, they have got to win the next 4 games. I mean, everybody is so tight, but they got to win the next 4 games.
Just for organization, since we're on to that.
Yeah.
So we've got JD Martinez, the Rangers, the Knicks.
Yeah.
I mentioned Ohtani.
Yeah.
All right, guys, BT and Sal coming up next.
Now, the thing about it is, Jerry, I like to start out by touching on a little bit of everything.
Yes.
Because you never know what the callers want. You never know what the people out there want. All right, so they heard us talk about JD Martinez, how he structured his contract, and how he lengthens the lineup for the Mets. That's great. We talked about how the Rangers won a big game last night. They're missing 2 of their best defenders, and they played defense. And by the way, congratulations to Jonathan Quick. He is now tied, and I'll give you $1,000. I will give you $1,000.
And you know he will.
Jonathan Quick right now is tied with another American goaltender for most wins in their career. Who is that other goaltender?
John Van Beesbrook.
Wow. I thought the way he said that, I was like, oh, man.
You know what is so crazy? The first goalie that came to mind for me was John Van Beesbrook. And I know that's not the answer. I swear to God, that's the first name that came to mind.
Do I get a guess?
For the $1,000.
Not for $1,000 because you probably Googled it.
I was going to say,
didn't.
or saw it with Scott Van Pelt.
I know. Also, no, because he was crazy with the tournament stuff.
Okay.
Richter, I would guess.
No.
Okay.
No. Ryan Miller.
I would not have guessed that either. No.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Well, that's great. He's been, it's funny. You talk about him, the fine he's been at his age.
Oh, it's been unbelievable. And he signed a contract extension.
All he does is win.
Yeah, and when Igor was going through some of those downturns during this year, and he had to get back to work with Benoit Allaire, the greatest goaltending coach of all time, all of a sudden Jonathan Quick propped up this team, and he made some great saves last night. And a physical game last night, a great game. Matt Rempe was back in the lineup. So, they win a tough game. Now they're going to play. It is a primetime Saturday night game on ABC.
Which is great. I know you say you don't care about the 1 seed. And I understand. As long as you get the good goaltending and you play the way you've played. Not that important to you?
I mean, I'd like it because then you're playing at least a 7 seed, in the opening round. But all these teams are tough, man. Every single one of these teams is a pain in the ass, and every single one of these goalies always turns out to be playing like Bernie Parent or Ken Dryden or somebody like that. Those are all great goalies, by the way.
I know who they are.
But last night was a really good, solid win. I mean, that was a nice bounce back win after losing at home to Winnipeg. But that just goes to show you the top of the Metro and the top of the Atlantic are, no matter who you're playing, these teams are all going to be tough, and they're probably all going to be 6 to 7 game series.
The stat that got me, and I didn't see this game, obviously, with all the basketball that was on, the stat that got me when I was reading the game story, periods 2 and 3, the Rangers had 27 scoring chances to the Bruins 7.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about dominating a game.
That's defense.
That is unbelievable.
And listen, the Bruins have one of the best top lines in all of the league. And by the way, the Bruins are the number 1 team in the league.
Yeah, no,
They've been going back and forth with Vancouver.
97 points?
Yeah, I think are 96. 97. I think the Rangers have 96, and I think the Hurricanes have 94 right now.
Yes, and we're getting to that time of the year where hockey becomes
I can't wait. This
center
is the
with
best.
the playoffs. Yep.
There's been, they've been good over the last couple of years, and they've come out of that whole sell-off thing that they went through, and I can't even begin to tell you, and I think I speak for most Ranger fans, you cannot wait until they play their next game.
It really is. When you think about this time of year, and I know we're having fun with the show sheet and everything, not much going on. Think about where we're entering right now. You've got the NCAA tournament kicking into high gear. You've got the NHL winding down and heading into the playoffs. The NBA heading into the playoffs. The baseball season about to begin. The NFL draft, which people go goo gaga over, and that's fine. If you love football, that's wonderful. And then on top of that, you got the Masters coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be. I know the Super Bowl, the NFL playoffs, we go nuts over, but this might be, like this month, this 4-week period, might be the best of the year.
Yeah, I mean, looking forward to the Masters. It's always a great tournament, and, the CBS coverage on that on Saturday and Sunday, there's nothing like it.
Agreed.
There's nothing like it. And I will say this, that even like last night, you watch these kids play college basketball, and it's too bad that Wagner couldn't upset North Carolina. But, you could see North Carolina was so much bigger than they were. And if you're not hitting your threes, then all of a sudden your chances of winning obviously go down significantly in these games here.
Well, and that's where all the upsets come from. I mean, I wanted to do a whole bunch on this, but to that point, Oakland,
Sanford almost beat Kansas last night.
I want to get to that, too, because the referees took that game away from them.
Thank you very much.
But we'll get to that. Just a couple minutes since you mentioned the threes and the teams being bigger. So I turn on last night Kentucky-Oakland. And my first thought is, I mean, think you maybe an upset, who knows? But you're looking at the size difference for the most part of the frontline guys on Kentucky, and you're thinking, these poor kids got no chance. And then the way the game starts, Oakland can't hit a shot to save their lives. I think they started 0 for 8, but
they were nervous.
But Kentucky was having trouble making shots too, and so it's 2-0. It's 2-0. We're 4 minutes into the game, and then finally Oakland hits a 3, and then the game kind of settles in. And you talk about how the 3 has really evened things out. So Oakland's got this kid, Jack Golke, who there's no one, unless you've covered Oakland, has ever heard of him. And you know why you've never heard of him?
Yeah.
He's a 5th-year, maybe even a 6th-year graduate student player.
He looks like he should be a professor at the school.
He's 24 years old.
I mean, he looks old.
But do you have any idea where he played his first 4 years of college basketball after he redshirted his freshman season? Some Division II private school, to where if you look up his stats, he has none, because I guess they only keep Division I stats. So I'm looking at him like, what the hell is this?
The school's got to have stats.
They do. My point is, if you look him up,
okay,
you're going to see his stats, and it will say his career stats is 32 games. I'm like, well, how is that possible? He's a graduate student. So then you look deeper into it. He played at a Division II school, and those stats aren't kept on the website I was looking at. Then you look into his numbers from last night, and if you watch the highlights or watch the game, he hit 7 threes, 7 in the first half. And Boomer, if you didn't see it, and anybody out there that didn't see it, these weren't wide open shots. They were leaving him alone. This kid is falling left in the air.
All over him.
They were all over him, and that is the type of thing that evens things out. And then on top of it, Kentucky, who scores the most points in the country, who shoots threes at the highest clip of any team in the country, whose field goal percentage is like third in the country, couldn't make routine shots that they usually do make. And next thing you know, you're locked into a battle, and bye-bye go the Kentucky
Jerry,
Wildcats.
what do I always tell you about basketball?
Live by the three, die by the three.
Right, or it's a make or miss game.
Well,
that's
and
what
the
it
NBA
is.
is
I mean,
too,
honestly,
of course.
well, yeah, of course. I mean, and this kid was unbelievable last night. You should go work for Elon Musk. He was launching so many threes.
Hey, Mike, I'll tell you another thing, too. Your guy, Evan Washburn, Al, you say he doesn't care about this. If you haven't seen it, I actually thought a lot of times these interviews with these coaches off the court or right after games are awful because they're so, it's just brutal. Their season just ended. I thought the Evan Washburn, John Calipari interview, albeit 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, I thought it was outstanding. He asked a couple of really good questions, and Calipari didn't act like a jackass. He gave you really long, thought-out answers.
He's got problems.
Well, he does because the last couple of years they've lost to a 15 and a 14.
I'm just telling you, when I think of college basketball and I think of fan bases, and I think of fan bases that have the highest expectations for their school and their team, it's Kentucky. It's not even close.
Well, there's nothing else there for them.
But
I mean, that is it.
Living there for 10 years in that general
sure.
area down there, there's nothing like it. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I know there are football fans that are crazed in the SEC as well, but the Kentucky basketball fan is probably livid this morning.
Yeah.
Livid.
And last night and tomorrow and next week, and they want answers.
You know how we get with our professional teams around
sure.
here? People screaming and yelling about Rob Saleh, screaming and yelling about Steve Cohen, screaming and yelling about guys that can't hit and can't do this and can't do that, can't catch. Remember Evan Ingram here was public enemy number one for a long time. I mean, this is how they treat Kentucky basketball. It is like their professional sport down there in Lexington, and I mean, it is about as intense as it gets.
Yeah,
and I saw it.
He's going to feel the pressure.
I saw it up close and personal for 10 years, and I went to a couple of their games. It's borderline sickness.
I will tell you. So if you remember,
sickness
probably
in a good way, not a bad way.
I want to say 2009, maybe Columbia played at Kentucky. Do you remember I went on this trip with Columbia?
Yes.
I missed my flight and had to drive there. Had to rent a car and drive there. If you remember that.
This is when you were doing games on the internet.
Yeah, this one was on the internet. It was our. It's funny. That was the first year we went streaming only. That is true.
Look at you. You are so far ahead of the curve.
Yes, there are now NBA teams and NHL teams that stream, like the Devils, only stream. St. John's is a stream-only school now. There's no radio for them. So anyhow.
And you, Jerry Recco, you cut through the masses.
Yes.
By streaming first.
So yes. we're in Lexington. It's an Ivy League school. It's Kentucky. Karl Anthony Towns, I think was on that team.
Okay.
And really had no chance going in, everybody said. And if I don't remember the particulars, but I want to say Kentucky wound up winning by like 7, but Columbia was leading at halftime and was playing great, hitting their shots. And I remember going to the bathroom during one of our halftime breaks, and the conversation, to your point, was get this guy out. This is a travesty. How are we losing at halftime to this Ivy League school? Like, they were ready to run him out at halftime of that game. So I can only imagine after losing games like they did last night and in the last couple of years in the tournament, they're not going to be happy.
I will say it's one of the highest paying jobs, but I also will say it has the most pressure attached to it. But when you do win, and they have won, when you do win, there is nothing like it. I mean, and even though it's a small regional area, small city, it is about as intense. The entire, I can't say the entire state because some people are there for Louisville, but this Lexington, Kentucky crowd is like all in.
Yep, they're all in, and guess what? Now they're all out. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got CeeLo. He will give us his first report of the morning. We've got you as well. 877-337-6666. Boomer and Geo program on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.